Aurora's immigration detention facility is owned by a private for-profit company, not the government agency responsible for immigration enforcement, known as ICE. We're breaking through the ICE with some questions for one of its leaders. The runoff for Denver mayor is set, so did the results actually take longer than normal? Colorado Democrats want to stop a project that would take millions of gallons of crude oil from Utah through Colorado by train. We wanted to know why their requests are being derailed, or at least ignored, by members of their own party, including the president. What can the Rockies home opener tell us about climate change?
My good news is it's going to be sunny, and that means green grass is coming.
And we head to the suburban country for some Good Friday good news. Next. Colorado is a state that protects abortion access. A federal judge's decision in Texas could make it harder for women across the country, including here, to get access to the most common form of abortion care. A judge appointed by former President Trump has ordered regulators to halt their approval of mifepristone, which is used in abortions. The FDA approved the drug more than 20 years ago. It, along with a second drug, can end a pregnancy up to 10 weeks. Anti-abortion groups sued, saying the government did not adequately assess the drug's safety. The judge did give the government time to appeal. What this ruling means is immediately not clear. Shortly after the decision, a federal judge in Washington state said the FDA must keep abortion drugs available in at least 12 liberal states that sued the FDA to make the abortion pills, and that includes Colorado. Research says more than half of abortions in the U.S. are medicated abortions. Colorado has seen a spike in abortion care since neighboring states limited treatment. Abortion access advocates say they've seen a 30 times increase in out-of-state patients coming here for care. The group Cobalt, which advocates for abortion access, said tonight's decision endangers anyone who needs an abortion for any reason, like miscarriages, cancer, or other medical conditions. When we talk about immigration, we usually get the cold shoulder from ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. For instance, Aurora has an ICE detention facility, which is actually run by a private for-profit group. And when we have questions for ICE about it, we get statements at best. Our Angeline McCall broke through the ICE and talked with one of the higher-ups this week. Angeline?
Yeah, Marshall, there could be a lot of changes coming to immigration policies in the future. That's why we wanted to talk to them about what's potentially coming federally and potentially locally here as well. In Colorado, a bill going through the state legislature would ban immigration detention agreements with local entities like police or sheriff departments. Right now, they can work with ICE to hold detainees or increase ICE bed capacity. We asked local ICE leaders their response to a bill that would ban any agreements like that.
At the end of the day, we'll execute our mission, whether it's in a custodial setting, such as a jail or another prison, or we'll execute it in an at-large environment.
The Aurora facility is run by GEO. That's the private company. In fact, 67% of ICE detention facilities are run by corporations. President Biden passed an executive order shortly after taking office, stopping any new contracts for private prisons. That does not apply to ICE facilities, which has upset immigration advocates, but it has brought up renewed discussions about privatized corporations when it comes to facilities like these.
Don't have the capacity to run our own detention facilities. It's not something that we're congressionally funded for. If we had the money and the personnel to support the non-privatized mission, we would do that. But for now, what we do is we rely on partnerships to execute our mission with a small footprint of allocated employees that we have available to us.
Title 42 is expected to be lifted next month as well. It was implemented during the pandemic. It meant that migrants who would immediately be expelled did not have any other chance for asylum. The deputy field office director says they have no predictions if that will mean that they will end up detaining more people as a result.
And Angeline, I feel like we should point out this is federally regulated. There are private prisons in Colorado that are separate from this, that the state legislature can have a say in, but anything here would need to be done by Congress, right?
Exactly. Yeah, this is on the federal level, and locally, there is this push with that bill, but at the same time, this is really a federal agency, and so the state doesn't have a whole lot of say.
I am impressed. We heard from ICE for a change. Thanks, Angeline. Our next question comes from a few of you: Sergey, Andy, Howard, and Albus. Why did it take Denver so long to count votes? It kinda didn't. Even I want results the night of the election, but picture this. Before mail-in ballots, we all had to wait in line at a polling location before voting. That wait was when we were verified to be who we said we were, and then we voted. Now we vote first, and then we are verified for who we said we were when election workers check our signatures and check ID for first-time voters. So the wait now is on the back end. But really, every election takes a while for results. You just don't notice when the race is not close. For comparison, let's look at November's election. At the start of our 10 p.m. newscast, we were showing Democratic Governor Jared Polis with an 18-point lead over Republican challenger Heidi Ganahl. Polis had 989,000 votes, Ganahl 675,000. The counting was not done, but the race was over. When all the votes were counted, Polis had an additional 479,000 votes. Ganahl also added 307,000 votes. That's almost 800,000 votes that were not counted by 10 p.m. election night. But you probably didn't notice because the gap was so wide. Also, results can continue to change up to 8 days after Election Day. Voters who forgot to sign their envelope or forgot to provide ID if it was their first time voting have 8 days to cure or fix the problem and have their ballots still counted. Military voters also can have their ballots received and counted up to 8 days after Election Day, as well as ballots from United States citizens who live outside of the U.S. Next, viewer Jane is keeping an eye on the District 7 race. Flor Alvarez leads, but because she did not have more than 50%, there will be a runoff, that is, with the second place candidate. Nick Campion is holding on to second, but Adam Estroff is just 103 votes behind. The recount threshold is 0.5% of the second place vote total, which is 15 votes right now. So this race does not currently fall in that threshold. Jane wanted to know if a very close race could go to a three-way runoff. Jane, the answer is no. Just the top two candidates advance. So what if the runoff is a tie? There will not be a runoff. The winner would be decided by a drawing, and we've reported in other cities and counties that has included a coin flip, a draw from a deck of cards, even pulling a name out of a hat. Wendy wanted to know about the runoff between Mike Johnston and Kelly Brough for mayor. Wendy asked, can we vote for a write-in candidate? Interestingly, you can only have a write-in vote count if that person is registered as a write-in candidate in the first place. In the runoff, you cannot even write in a candidate. The Denver Clerk and Recorder's Office confirms a write-in option won't even be printed on your ballot. Overall turnout is about 39% of active voters in Denver, but there are clear pockets of Denver where turnout is much higher compared to others. The darker colors on the map show where more people voted, like Council District 5, which covers Montclair, Hilltop, and Lowry. Turnout there was 49%. Turnout was 46% in District 6, which covers Wash Park, Virginia Village, and the University neighborhoods. The two areas with the lowest turnout, Districts 11 and 3. Those are voters in Northeast Denver in District 11 and Westwood and Barnum in District 3. Just 22% of voters cast a ballot in the Green Valley Ranch and Montbello areas, 25% in Westwood and Barnum. It pains me to say this, but you now have less than 2 months to decide who to pick in the runoff races. The next election is June 6. Ballots will be mailed the week of May 15th. We're planning to host a debate between Kelly Brough and Mike Johnston in the mayor's race. At least we've got a minute before working on new questions. As seen in our previous debates, housing and homelessness are two of the most significant issues in the mayor's race. And a new report from a group who helps the homeless reveals some dire numbers. The report from the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless looks at the state's housing crisis compared to affordability. And this looks beyond Denver. The math from the report showed there are only 29 affordable homes available for every 100 extremely low-income households, meaning 7 out of 10 families have no affordable option. The report ranks Colorado as the 8th most unaffordable state for housing, though Colorado voters in November did approve $300 million a year to go toward housing and homelessness. The coalition hopes that funding and other efforts could lead to a seismic shift in the state's housing landscape.
We would see less housing instability, so less people, going paycheck to paycheck, worried about whether they're going to be able to afford their housing from month to month. We'd see less households falling into the cycle of homelessness. And I think we'll see stronger communities because we'll just see less insecurity and less instability in those neighborhoods. People will be able to live where they work. I think the intention is really just to make housing more available for those communities, those households, those populations that are really struggling and that have had a lot of barriers to accessing housing.
The report pushes against the idea that more market rate housing will cause other housing options to reduce in price. Colorado Coalition for the Homeless wants to see more mixed income development, and they'd like any incentives for developers to be tied to affordability. Without that, the coalition says creating more dense housing without affordability would just lead to more unaffordable housing. Each week, you step up to help Coloradans $5 at a time. Kyle has an update on this week's Word of Thanks campaign, which is Minds Matter Colorado.
Minds Matter Colorado is on a mission that smart, capable young people from Colorado's low-income families should have a pathway to college. That's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports Minds Matter Colorado. They provide 3 years of intensive mentoring while students are in high school, preparing them for that college path, and they offer weekly college prep sessions so that students feel confident about their chances of getting into elite colleges and succeeding there. Text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to join me and a bunch of other Coloradans in supporting the work of Minds Matter Colorado. They provide pathways to education and success that many young people in Colorado couldn't envision for themselves.
A particularly cold winter does not confirm your uncle's theory about climate change, so we get some perspective thanks to a guy who knows weather and baseball. On this beautiful start to the weekend, we celebrate Friday with your good news. Next.
$40 million people rely on the Colorado River. It's a key resource, which is why local and federal leaders are worried about a new possible railway coming through the state. Democratic Senator Michael Bennet joined Democratic Congressman Joe Neguse and local leaders in Glenwood Springs today to warn about a proposed railway project. 7 counties in Utah want to build a railway that connects the Uinta Basin to the National Rail Network. It would require mile-long trains to run alongside a 100-mile stretch of the Colorado River. Elected leaders are worried what could happen if a train derails and spills crude oil into the river.
This canyon is a very fragile place. We've had the Grizzly Creek fire. We've had climate change induced floods, rock slides. Imagine the degradation of this river. Imagine the ecosystems impacted. Imagine the people, the communities impacted if a disaster were to occur.
The local and federal leaders want the Biden administration to study the impact of these trains traveling through Colorado. The feds have conducted an environmental impact study on how the train may affect only the state of Utah, but Bennett says it should include Colorado as well. The company behind the railway has previously criticized any environmental concerns. They say hardened crude is easier to clean up. They did not say we won't spill it. Now that the Rockies have had their home opener and won, all the haters are on the bandwagon until the wheels come off. Hey, I'm not the team owner who said a 500 season is possible, but this is not a baseball story. It's about climate change and how it can be real, even when the weather wins opening day, but ends up finishing the season 500. Our Chris Bianchi takes a swing at baseball and climate.
There is no doubt it's been a cold and snowy winter for basically all of Colorado. Statewide snowpack levels are about their highest levels since 1997. And Denver is off to its coldest start to a calendar year since at least 1995 and probably longer than that. But wait, isn't the climate supposed to be warming or something? Most of you know that weather and climate are 2 totally different things. But for those of you who don't know, here's an example. I just hope it doesn't hit too close to home. Most of you probably would agree, right? The Colorado Rockies aren't and haven't historically been a very good baseball team. In their 30 years as a baseball team, the Rockies have made the playoffs exactly 5 times. They've only made 1 World Series in 2007, and they've never won a World Series. Colorado's average statewide winter temperature just finished below the long-term average for the first time since 2013. It was only the 6th time in the last 30 years that Colorado has had a below-average statewide winter temperature, based on data from NOAA. So just like the Rockies will probably win some games and even make the playoffs occasionally, you probably wouldn't call the Rockies a great baseball team, at least historically speaking. So just like a game doesn't mean a season, the weather doesn't mean climate. And just like the Rockies might win a game or 2 in August and September, there will be more cold and snowy winters in Colorado, even if the climate is warming overall.
It certainly felt like a long winter season, that's for sure. Luckily, spring has sprung, and it feels like it out there. It looks like it too, bright and blue across downtown Denver. We were in the upper 60s this afternoon for daytime highs, 70s off to the eastern plains. The winds have been ramping up quite a bit across the eastern side of the state, 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts. So that red flag warning is going to continue until 8 o'clock tonight. Otherwise, just look for a few high level clouds out there. We do have a storm system that will be impacting the high country tomorrow. Oh, we're talking just a few flurries. For us here in the city, it means some clouds. It'll start to drift in tomorrow afternoon and evening. That should not stop those daytime highs. And you will notice maybe a ½ inch to an inch tops up in the mountains. Tomorrow, temperatures returning to the upper 60s, low 70s for eastern Colorado. Easter weekend, wow, 70 degrees. And then the 80s are back next week.
My good news this weekend, my wife and I don't have anything planned.
Sometimes good news can just be relaxing, so sit back and enjoy with us. Good news from a ranch. Next. Every week we share your good news. The 345th edition takes us to Sterling Ranch in Littleton.
We call this calving season. This is the time of when we get our new babies.
And we've had 100 babies as of today. So it's Good Friday and a good weekend to have babies in Colorado.
It means new life, new things coming in, and I think me going to college and being able to carry on my own future and start my own life has been what I've been enjoying the most and most excited for. So that's what I'm thankful for today.
My good news is, well, I got 100% on my math test. In my last 3 tests, I got 100%. So I've gotten way better at my math.
My good news this weekend, my wife and I don't have anything planned except on Sunday we're going to have brunch with a lot of family and friends, and we can't wait.
I also just earned my blue stripe in Taekwondo, and I'm halfway to black belt.
My good news is it's gonna be sunny, and that means green grass is coming.
We also get to work in one of the most beautiful environments.
Best news of all is people are healthy and a good lifestyle, and the beautiful Colorado spring. It's so uplifting. You look to the mountains and you can only feel uplifted in your life.
In the metro area to boot. The most Colorado thing we saw today takes us back to our childhood, that and why punctuation in your feedback matters. Next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a little loony. Meep. We love this large boulder that's actually the size of a small boulder, but look closer and you'll see a small cartoon the size of a large cartoon. Looks like the Roadrunner wins again. That's a silhouette of Wile E. Coyote that someone slapped on the big rock. Carla Distel spotted this on Highway 65 between Colburn and Grand Junction on the western slope. Meep. Share your Colorado things with the hashtag HeyNext or email next@9news.com. Lucy asked if Kelly Brough would be the first woman elected mayor of Denver. The answer is yes. Chris emailed me with the headline, "Great spot on suit." I'm looking around. Where's the spot? Then I read his email. He meant spot on suit. Hyphen. That would have saved me some heartache. See you next time.